美国名嘴咆哮美国民众。
场景一
Stark contrast, the United States is a descending power. That is, the footprint of the United States is smaller in the world economy with each passing year. I want to show you that there are also similarities between China and the United States. In China, you could divide the society into three parts. At the top is the Communist Party and the government it clearly controls. Underneath that are the private and publicly owned enterprises, the things that make the economy run. And at the bottom, the working class. In the United States, what's at the top are private capitalist enterprises, the big businesses that we all know run this society. Underneath them are the parties and the governments that they control. And then at the bottom, again, the mass of the working class. It's been the job of the politicians and the government to keep all this working.
场景二
Changed a lot, yeah.
What is that now?
Changed a lot and in a good way because China, especially the key cities like Shanghai, Beijing, really international cities welcome foreigners like us. This is really a good place to live and to stay.
Everything is so digitalized every day, you know, here in China especially, like you pay everything with your cell phone. In Italy you just forget about doing something like this. It's crazy for us.
What surprised you the most when you first came here that people outside China might not know about?
Toilet paper. No, but really, like really rough toilet paper.
场景三
essentially think of themselves overwhelmingly in terms of being nation states. I mean, the modern United States has only ever been a nation state. It's never been anything else. European countries are slightly different, but basically European countries think of themselves in terms of their national identity. That's why we call them nation states. And I would describe China as primarily being a civilization state and secondarily being a nation state. So I think there are three particular features of China as a civilization state that need to be taken into account. One is that there's extraordinary longevity, 2,000 years of history and more. Secondly, the relationship between Chinese civilization and political units, that's very unusual historically speaking, but there is a strong coincidence between the two. And thirdly is the sheer scale of China. 1/5 of the world's population. I mean, it is a continent really. It cannot be compared with the average nation state. It is something quite apart from that kind of.
场景四
Here's China in the green, right? It's like, yo man, here we are. Here's China going this way, and by all accounts, the U.S. is going this way. And China is going this way. And this is big. This is big because look at China here. This is when I was your age, sitting in classes, taking my first sociology class, here was China. And there was the United States. China was barely getting off the ground. And just look, man, look at that. Look at, in a short period of time, and nothing, in 20 years, here. And if you're not thinking about China, if you're thinking about the U.S., if you're thinking about your future, and
场景五
每一个人，包括我自己，都真的觉得中国高科技就是一些 cheap stuff 嘛，就是比起 Apple 来说，就是一些更便宜的选择。但是现在呢，你在俄罗斯，你采访任何一个人，
场景六
But the main thing that he emphasized to me was the main purpose of his call was to say very frankly to me on private line that the Chinese were getting way ahead of the United States in many ways. I replied to President Trump that in the last number of years, since 1949 when we normalized relations, the United States has been at constant war with Iraq and Afghanistan and and Syria and Yemen and many other countries. Almost constant war. And the expert economists estimate that we've spent about $3 trillion on those wars.
场景7，
他们有 Kakao Pay， 还有支付宝，好像支付宝在韩国也能用，但是欧美国家还是到现在只用现金或者刷卡，能用手机支付方式超级方便。我这一次来中国都快1年了，然后一直没有回国。我好像有至少半年没有见过现金，我都是用手机支付的。这是第一，就是要是回国我。
场景8。
Of the last 100 years of being a nation state, it is a function of more than 2,000 years of being a civilization, or what I call a civilization state. China is primarily not a nation state. It is primarily a civilization state, and only secondarily a nation state. What am I talking about here? Well, I'm talking about things like Confucian values, very unusual relationship, very unusual, unique, not unusual, unique relationship in many ways between the state and society. Very unusual conception of the family. Social customs like guanxi, ancestral worship, an ideographic language, Chinese food, chopsticks. I mean, all these things are not a function of the last 100 years. Now, here you have an absolutely basic difference between China and Western countries. Western countries are constituted on the basis, fundamentally or predominantly, varies from country to country, but always predominantly on the basis of national identity, on the basis of nation state. China is different. China is first and foremost constituted on the basis of civilization. It has absolutely far-reaching implications. You cannot understand the Chinese state without a concept of Chinese civilization and the civilization state. You cannot understand the Chinese attitude towards race, which in many ways is very different from what predominates in
场景9。
And sometimes a birthday party for a bunch of 12-year-old boys. But there's a palpable joy here as China embraces new technologies and the possibilities that it creates. But to put that in context, if you think about it, not that long ago, China fell way behind the rest of the world in terms of innovation. Think about it. They barely had a science program, limited internet access, and while they could manufacture a lot of stuff, they were not really good at inventing it. And having been here, we all know now, times they haven't changed. You have an ambitious government program that is leapfrogging China to the forefront of scientific research. You have the internet age exploding here, with China inventing new technologies that are very much their own. And entrepreneurs and inventors are creating products so quickly, they don't even have time to patent them before they hit the market. So I can tell you.
场景10。
的呀，街口都有好几个摄像头。There's not a lot of aggression in China.
中国不能公开持有枪支弹药。
Every time you want to take a train in China, you have to pass a security check.
像地铁这方面可能还要加强一下。
People are very kind and you can ask them.
场景11。
Son muy bonita la población y que también es el mayor continente, mayor economía del mundo en estos momentos.
China. Mi abuelo es chino. Mi abuelo es chino. Sí.
Y uno de los países más poderosos del planeta en cuanto a tecnología.
Bueno, me parece un país muy amplio, me gusta mucho la gente y me gustaría conocer.
Donde hay mucha tecnología, mucha población.
Que nos superan en tecnología a todos los otros países y todo eso.
Nada.
En comparación de otros países, ustedes tienen más tecnología avanzada que a comparación de Argentina. O sea, vos decís, es mucha comparación.
El gran proveedor mundial. El gran proveedor mundial. Últimamente está influyendo mucho en la economía y la política, sobre todo. Así que.
场景12。
Chinese! It's too late. It's too late to learn Chinese. It's over. No, it's true. It's true. Because it's also one of the hardest languages in the world. I mean, how do you learn Chinese now? Just, you know, they've got over 10,000 characters in the alphabet. You know this? 10,000 characters. We've got 26 in English. And there's still people going, what comes after Q? 26. This is, 10,000 they've got. That's super smart. Although they must have the worst Sesame Street in the world. It must suck being a Muppet in that country. I can just see them on a Monday morning singing to the kids. 5 years later.
They've been in decades. The rich keep getting richer, and our friends on the other side said, what do we do now? Let's do a tax cut where 83% of it goes to the top 1% of the wealthiest people. Fast forward a few months, global pandemic, 36 million people unemployed, 40% of families who have a worker that makes $40,000 a year and less lose their job last month. 4 million people didn't pay their rent, and the Republican Party says, we don't have any money to help you. Are you kidding me? Where do you guys live? Food lines around the blocks at our food banks in the United States of America. 1 in 5 kids are going hungry. Your party can't even get food to them. This isn't a wish list. If it's a wish list...
场景14
To orbit this planet, America cannot put a person into space without asking the Russians to do it. That we're not investing in the young generation of Americans, that we're willing to lose the race for artificial intelligence to the Chinese when China is rising, that China's GDP has quadrupled since 2001, tripled since 2003, doubled since 2009. Do we think that no one in the rest of the world knows all of that about us? For 10 years. For 10 years, Madam President.
场景15
It looked pretty good. It was pristine. Paradise. Have you seen it lately? Have you taken a good look at it lately? It's fucking embarrassing. Only a nation of unenlightened half-wits could have taken this beautiful place and turned it into what it is today, a shopping mall. A big fucking shopping mall. You know that? That's all you got. That's all you've got here, folks. Mile after mile of mall after mall. Many, many malls. Major malls and mini malls. They put the mini malls in between the major malls. And in between the mini malls, they put the mini marts. And in between the mini marts, you got the car lots, gas stations, muffler shops, laundromats, cheap hotels, fast food joints, strip clubs, and dirty bookstores. America the Beautiful. One big transcontinental commercial cesspool. And how do the people feel about all this?
场景16
Danny Haifong wrote recently, China has not been to war in more than 40 years, never conducts regime change operations, does not get involved in destabilization of other countries, and does not unilaterally impose sanctions as a form of economic bullying. What are you doing, China? Do you want to play with the big boys or not? And China, no lateral economic bullying? How else are you going to bend other nations to your will, killing thousands of innocent people in a process that those people have nothing to do with, huh? Killing innocents is called part of growing up, buddy, okay? But that's not the only way China has let everyone down. Although there is plenty of private capital throughout China, capital is not allowed to dominate political power like in the West. With capital calling the shots, China would not have been able to carry out the largest scale poverty alleviation in history. Capital doesn't own their political system. How juvenile. And the largest scale poverty alleviation in history. Aren't you interested in...
场景17
所以现在就是到全球这么严重的一个状况下，这里真的控制的超安全超好的，你们看一下，现在超多人都可以聚集在一起，而且好多人都不戴口罩，你就知道这里控制有多好。我爸爸妈妈他们现在在台湾，他们现在是连家门都不敢踏出去的哦，所以他们现在是超级羡慕我，就是我可以在这里很自由的走动，就觉得全世界是只有站在这里，站在中国这里，我真的觉得非常非常的安心，非常非常的放心。这么好看的夜景，然后又这么安全的一个地方，我觉得。
场景18
cornered the market in 5G and pharmaceuticals. Oh, and they bought Africa. Their new Silk Road initiative is the biggest infrastructure project in history, indebting not just that continent, but large parts of Asia, Europe, and the Middle East to the people who built their roads, bridges, and ports. If you want to go any
场景19
This is not your fault. It happened. It is what it is. I'm not going to get into that idea that maybe you could have acted sooner. We can deal with that when this is all over. But here's the deal. We need a real fucking plan. It was the right move to make everyone stay home because that's the only way to deal with a virus like this. But here's where I have a problem. So, you told us to shut down non-essential businesses. You told us to go home and quarantine. You told us we have to keep social distance and stay inside. But you told us you would help. So where is the fucking help? These checks are what they are. I mean, let's be serious. I'm not going to turn away $1,200.